What's up, guys? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Long time no see. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're revisiting the tips and tricks series. Today's going to be kind of more administrative stuff that you can do with your game to make it run better, and I'm also going to be teaching you guys how to use those fancy little NREL codes for importing my builds, importing your buddies' builds, and also sharing your builds. Again, shout out to the Twitch channel. Definitely head over there, drop a follow for my future / current, I guess you could say, live streams that I plan on doing. In the meantime, yeah, let's just hop straight into it. It's going to be pretty self-explanatory today. So first off, when it comes to actually importing your buddies' builds, you know, we'll actually start with sharing first. So for example, if you want to share your build with a buddy or send your NREL codes or have a sort of document like I do. Side note, this one is going to be linked in the description so you can see all my builds that I use. For example, I did a video on an HK416. That guy's actually right there. You can see it, and I do update them when game versions are updated. And what you're going to want to do if you want to share a build with your buddy, pretty much just head over to your weapon builder, hit customize, go to share, copy and paste wherever this guy is and where you want it to go. This is just the code system that they use to import and export builds. I don't know why it's specifically an NREL code, but it is what it is. Now, if you actually want to import a build, this is what you're going to do. Let's say your buddy, or you're looking at my document that has all of my builds posted on there. Let's say you want to use your, let's say, a SCAR build. So we're going to go to the FN SCAR L builds, the Mark 16 builds. This is going to be a close quarters variant of the SCAR Light. You're going to want to copy this guy over. And then what you're going to need to do, obviously, you're going to need to know what weapon system it is. Pretty self-explanatory. I have like M4s, SCARs, HKs. It's pretty easy to use. Pretty self-explanatory. You're going to want to switch over to, this one's going to be a, what is it? What did we use? SCAR Light. You're going to hit this FN SCAR Light. Obviously, it's already here because it's saved. But, for example, let's say if the code was different, I'm going to copy and paste it over here. Now, as you can see, there is like a return in some spaces. We're just going to delete back so we get this cursor right behind that last number or numerical value, alphanumeric value, whatever it may be. We're going to hit import. Then you should see some kind of confirmation where it says downloaded SCAR-L from game version, whatever game version that weapon was built on. You're going to hit exit, and that weapon's going to be there. That's pretty much how you import, export builds. Pretty self-explanatory. I know it's confusing when you're first getting into the game, but hopefully that clears up a lot of it for you guys that haven't specifically had experience with, you know, sharing and importing other people's builds. Second topic of the day, we're going to be kind of going over game settings and system settings that you can use to make your game run smoother, look better, and just get more frames and not have like things like stutters. I know they can be a pain in the absolute ass in Deadline. It can cause you to die. It's just one of those things. First off, I'm going to be kind of explaining. So ROBLOX itself is a very easy program to run. You don't need a lot of power to have it run well. However, ROBLOX as a just game engine is incredibly unoptimized. So you can have an absolute kick-ass system. Like I would consider mine, the one that I have, which is an i7, 32 gigs of RAM, and running a 1080 Ti is absolutely overkill for it on the base level of ROBLOX. However, the engine itself will kind of limit the performance that you can get just because of the nature of how it runs. So keep that in mind. You're going to have to kind of do some experimentation when it comes to your settings to see what works best for you. But this is just a general guide to explain, if you will, what each individual setting does within your graphics settings. Again, to reiterate, keep in mind what kind of system you have. If you're running an absolute beast of a GPU, beast of a processor, kind of more of a mid-end system or a low-end system, it's all going to be kind of dependent on that. So first off, we're going to kind of go over the game settings. I have mine posted in my Deadline info and loadouts document. First off, I'm going to kind of cover camera field of view. This is going to be the degree in which your field of view that you can see on screen. So the lower the field of view, the less you're going to be able to see as kind of like your peripheral, if you will, in layman's terms. The lower it is, you're also going to get a little bit more of kind of a magnification effect. It's going to feel like it's zoomed in a little bit more. Default, it's at a 77.5 degree field of view. I would highly recommend just bumping this up to 90. That's pretty standard for a lot of first-person shooters. It's going to look the most natural to you, and it's honestly the best for when it comes to like close quarters work, because you're just going to be able to have that higher field of view so that you can see a little bit more to your left and your right, up and down. Next, we're going to have your bullet shells and bullet holes. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be the amount of shells that are going to be displayed on screen and the amount of bullet holes that are displayed on screen. This won't really affect your graphics settings too much, but if you have like a low-end or a mid-end system, I would kind of plan accordingly. I would recommend most people honestly just keep it default at mid, just because you're really not probably going to notice it. I run it on high just because why not? I have the high-end system to do it. Next, we're going to have your shadows and your lighting shadows. If you have a low-end system or even like a medium low-end system, highly recommend turning these off. You're going to get quite a bit of a boost when it comes to your actual frames that are rendered per second versus like having them on. Now, let's say you're somebody that wants to see a little bit more in the dark, just disable the shadows. If you're more of a person that wants realism, keep the shadows on. They are relatively performance impacting a lot more than, for example, the bullet shells and bullet holes. Next, we got our blood. This won't really affect your FPS at all. In my experience, I've kind of toyed with it a little bit. I would just recommend keeping it on for realism's sake, and you can actually have a visual identifier of when you're hitting somebody. So, highly recommend keeping it on. Next is going to be a huge one. So, disabling your textures is going to make the game a lot smoother. I keep my textures on, so the actual setting is off because it's disabling the textures, right? If you have a low-end system, turn off your textures. It's just going to make the game run way better and way smoother for you on your system. Next, we're going to have our full detailed third-person models and our replication quality. So this is going to be the kind of quality that you're seeing other players' guns and their animations. It's going to be have a high impact on your performance. I would say if you have a medium end system, keep the replication quality at either mid or high, but keep the full detailed third person models off. When it comes to your builder, it's not going to affect your game at all. Same with your binds. I hope that kind of clears a little bit of stuff up. I get a lot of questions actually on game settings, but just plan according for your system. Next thing I'm going to be talking about here is kind of stuff you can do to get a little bit more performance or frames out of your system. If you have a monitor and a computer that can run together over 60 FPS, I would highly recommend running an FPS unlocker. For example, here's ones right here. You can pretty much just Google ROBLOX FPS unlocker. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube where it shows you actually how to run it. What it's going to do, it's going to run an injector that unlocks ROBLOX from 60 FPS. So 60 FPS is the lock for default for ROBLOX. There is no other way to unlock it so you can boost your frames higher than 60 FPS. But again, to reiterate, you have to make sure you have a monitor that is running higher than 60 FPS. For example, mine's running at 144, so I have it running at 144. Even within the settings of this, you can lock it so that it's running. Your max FPS is 144. Last thing we're going to talk about, and this is going to only apply to you people that have a dedicated GPU. So this isn't going to include like just running a processor like an i6, or excuse me, not an i6, geez, an i5 or an i7 like in a laptop or even a desktop. You're going to have either an NVIDIA, or I guess Intel now has dedicated GPUs too, or an AMD GPU. I'm going to show you how to do it on an NVIDIA system because I obviously have a GTX 1080 Ti. I really can't show you guys how to swap a AMD GPU over to render OpenGL. So what is OpenGL? OpenGL is a actual rendering process for 3D graphics. The issue is with some programs, it's set to actually be bound to your CPU for rendering. And if you have a dedicated GPU, you do not want this. It is going to overload your CPU. Not necessarily overloaded if you have a good one, but it's going to make your frames go way down south. So pretty much what you have to do, for example, if you have an NVIDIA system, you want to head over to your NVIDIA control panel. You can pretty much just right click on your desktop and open it up. And then once it pops up, you want to go over to manage your 3D settings. And then you'll kind of see all these settings in here. You just want to head over to where it says OpenGL rendering. And it could even be, depending on your system, it's going to be very dependent on it. Will either have auto select You'll have your processor on there, maybe, and then you're also going to have your GPU. You want to make sure that you force it to your GPU, then hit apply. Obviously, I already have it applied, but it's going to make it so that it's taking all that stress off your CPU. This is also going to be good for things if you're doing like streaming and or recording using your CPU. So with that all being said, I hope this video did help you out a little bit. Maybe you'll be able to squeeze a little bit more frames out of your game, make the game run a little bit smoother. Hopefully then now, for those of you that didn't know how to import and export your actual builds and get them like documented in a Google Doc, again, this is available to you guys, linked in the description. You can see all my builds from all the videos I've done and ones that I haven't done on yet. There's quite a bit on here actually, and I keep it relatively updated, or I try to. Follow the Twitch channel, link in the description and link on the Google Doc. But anyhow, I hope you guys did enjoy the video today, and I hope it cleared some stuff up for you guys. If there's certain things you would want me to make tips and tricks on, or certain topics you want to cover, drop a comment, let me know. I'd be more than happy to address them. Other than that, definitely like the video if it helped you out. Subscribe if you already haven't. And of course, enjoy the rest of the day for me. Stay safe.